Fault Lines.
Welcome back to Fault Lines. My name is Jamarl Thomas. I am typically here with my co-host Shane Stranahan, but he's out getting some rest. He's not feeling that well. He came down with a fever yesterday. So I'm going to hold down the fort. We're joined by Mark Sleboda, International Relations and Security Analyst. Mark, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us at short notice.
Jamal, thanks for having me. It's always an honor and a pleasure to be on the show.
Absolutely. So we've been following the Nagorno-Karabakh incident, basically Armenia and basically the conflict between Armenia and it dropped from my mind at the very instance that I was about to say it. But Azerbaijan, thank you, I appreciate it. I've been saying the word all day, and all of a sudden it just drops out of my mind. But right, the conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan over Nagorno-Karabakh, this particular territory. Now, if you look at it on the map, It is a very large space between the two countries. And you need to see it on the map in order to get kind of a framing of the way this stuff is breaking down, meaning the way the conflict and how that conflict is taking place. It doesn't seem to be an end to this. I've been listening and reading the information coming from the prime ministers of both countries. And one country says it's a war of independence, and that basically we should have freedom and determination for our stake in Nagorno-Karabakh. Now, the rest of the world doesn't accept this. And because the rest of the world doesn't accept this, and because this is in somebody else's territory, well, it becomes a conflict. And it doesn't seem like a conflict has a way of changing, especially since Armenia is accepting this as if this is their territory and that they're willing to defend it from the standpoint of like a war. What is the latest update on this conflict?
Okay, so it's a good point you have about the geography of the conflict. And it's actually quite a bit more than Nagorno-Karabakh, this Armenian ethnic enclave that is within the borders of what is today Azerbaijan. It's a bit more than that because as a result of the conflict upon the breakup of the Soviet Union, the 1988 to 1994 conflict, Armenia had the better of that conflict. And they actually drove deep into Azerbaijan territory, right? All of the territory between Armenia and Nagorno-Karabakh, and a bit to the side of it, has been that conflict for some 26 years now by Azerbaijan. These are 7 adjacent regions of Azerbaijan that are continue to be occupied today by Armenia, and the Azerbaijani population was largely displaced from that region. Call it ethnic cleansing if you want, this is how Armenia maintains its supply of Nagorno-Karabakh. And the Russian brokered ceasefire that ended or put that conflict into a frozen conflict, which has since become unfrozen, established the line of contact, which was deep in Azerbaijan, basically past Nagorno-Karabakh, with Armenian troops occupying a good stretch of Azerbaijani territory to the west of that point, and Azerbaijan, of course, deep within their territory on the other. So one of the strategic aims of this conflict may be a bit more limited than taking back all of their territory and Nagorno-Karabakh itself, but may be more focused on retrieving some of these regions where Armenia occupies Azerbaijani land, like Fuzuli and Jabrayil, to the southeast of Nagorno-Karabakh.
Now, let me ask you something. I'm sorry to interrupt, but Armenia considers those territories their land. Meaning, do they consider that Armenian territory? Which means that an attack on that is basically, from their perspective of the world, an attack on Armenia.
No, actually, they don't. They claim that Nagorno-Karabakh is independent. The new Armenian Prime Minister Pashinyan has actually made comments saying that Nagorno-Karabakh is part of Armenia, although
Right.
they haven't made an
That's what I'm getting at, because I've been
declaration
reading the comments
of
between the two
that
prime
territory.
ministers. Yeah, you're right. That's what it was going by. I mean, that's what I was asking, because I was reading the commentary between the two prime ministers as they were in debates over this. What is the basic argument for Azerbaijan and
that's really
Armenia
it.
for this?
Yeah, the two prime ministers actually appeared on a Russian TV political show, kind of the equivalent of 60 Minutes, even called that, in Russia. And they both defended their position, showing that for both countries, Russia's influence and balancing act between the two of them is still the primary forum that they are carrying out their diplomacy with each other over Nagorno-Karabakh and the surrounding region. Right now, the conflict is expanding somewhat because evidently, first of all, the Nagorno-Karabakh erstwhile capital, Stepanakert, is coming under heavy artillery fire, which is, of course, rather random and has the potential of causing a lot of civilian damage besides infrastructure damage. But also, at least 4 Israeli-made Azerbaijani drones have been shot down deep in Armenia, near the Armenian capital of Yerevan. So that seems to be that Azerbaijan is attempting to expand and bring the conflict home to Armenia in a way that up till now the fighting has been restricted into what is technically or under international law Azerbaijani territory. And they are the Azerbaijani forces are also heavily targeting the narrow mountainous highway that connects Armenia with Nagorno-Karabakh, the Nagorno-Karabakh capital, Stepanakert. And that's kind of the lifeline, the jugular vein to Nagorno-Karabakh, because it's necessary to get supplies, be that military, food, medicine, back and forth between Armenia and Nagorno-Karabakh, because it is such a heavily mountainous area. There's not a lot of, regular access to it.
But what unfroze this? I mean, is it, well, let me say it this way. From a political standpoint, if it's a piece at the barrel of a gun, then the moment that there is an inequity between the two forces, meaning the moment that I have the capability to expand into this and you can't stop me, or at the very least I don't think you can stop me, because it's a piece at the barrel of a gun, well, this is no longer peace. Or was there something that actually took place? Meaning, was this an issue of politics where one side wanted to regain territory that they lost? Or was it something that actually unfroze this peace of sorts in order to tumble us into where we are? And this kind of gets to, again, the argument that the Prime Minister of Armenia is making versus the Prime Minister of Azerbaijan. What are the two competing arguments that they're making, and what was the thing that unfroze this conflict?
Yeah, I think it's actually a bit of both, because as I said earlier, the outcome of the conflict, the line of conflict that was established in 1994 after that large conflict between the two countries over Nagorno-Karabakh ended heavily in Armenia's favor, with Armenia occupying, not just Nagorno-Karabakh, but 7 regions of Azerbaijan in the southeast. Obviously, Azerbaijan has long regarded that as an injustice, all right? And under international law, a technical reading of it, not considering the self-determination of Nagorno-Karabakh, Azerbaijan, it's hard to fault them. They want their country back. What the UN recognizes as their territory. And they have long simmered about that injustice. And one of the unfreezing factors was definitely the change in economic and military power since 1994, in the last 3 decades. There has been, from Azerbaijan's perspective, all of the dialogue of the Minsk group that was created to solve the conflict. All of this has resulted in nothing. All the talk has not helped get their country back. And the economic benefits of their oil and gas resources have vastly expanded their military budget. In the last few years, the military budget of Azerbaijan is bigger than the national budget of Armenia, and they've spent it on a lot of weapons. Russia sells weapons to both sides, but Azerbaijan has also been getting weapons from Israel and Turkey. And that brings up the other unfreezing factor, which is Turkey. Turkey is injecting itself into this conflict in a big way, full-throatedly in support of Azerbaijan, whereas everyone else is trying to stay even-handed, including Russia, a balancing act, and say simply, let's end the hostilities without taking sides. Turkey is completely backing Azerbaijan. They're certainly backing them with intelligence, with supplies. Even the French president has now made statements that seem to be confirming that Turkey has transported militants from the conflict in Syria, their Islamist and jihadi proxy forces in Syria, and transported from several hundred to several thousand of them to the conflict in Azerbaijan to fight on Azerbaijan's side. This is, of course, despite the fact that the militants are almost certainly Sunni radicals, while Azerbaijan is a Shia state. But sometimes money, and evidently they're being paid up to $2,000 a month, big money for them is the deciding factor in that. Obviously, Erdogan has a very expansionist, neo-Ottoman foreign policy. He's looking to expand his influence from all the way from Libya in the far west, where he's also involved in a conflict with Russia there, Syria to the south, where he's involved with a geopolitical conflict with Russia there, and now to the east to Azerbaijan, which is a Turkic country. He's looking to expand Turkey's influence there at the expense of Russia, again, in another kind of proxy conflict with Russia there. And he's really hoping to increase Turkey's regional influence there in a bid to make Turkey a great power.
That's astonishing. I mean, this is a tinderbox, to put it mildly, and this could go horribly awry. I mean, considering Turkey is a NATO nation and NATO is aligned against Russia, this is a tinderbox, and it seems like the Western press.
Armenia is. And not only is Turkey a NATO nation, but Armenia is a member of the Collective Security Treaty Organization.
That means Russia
a NATO analog headed by Russia.
Yeah, this is a tinderbox, and Western nations are not necessarily paying attention to this, even though they're browbeating these two to try to get involved. And I think the issue is, regardless of what these nations are saying, there's a power inequity that I think might have just taken place that has compelled the actions. Mark, thank you very much for coming in and giving us a larger explanation of the Nagorno-Karabakh issue. I really do appreciate it. You guys are listening. Oh, Mark, International Relations and Security Analyst, Mark Sleboda. You guys are listening to Fault Lines with Thomas and Stranahan. We will be back in a moment.